The old scrapyard at Garuda Basin still smelled of scorched copper, despite 50 years of desert winds. Shattered servo brackets and kneecap turbines lay in dunes like the bleached skeletons of prehistoric leviathans. To most citizens of the Thrall provinces, the place was a graveyard for memories. The Crystal Court had outlawed, but to Marisol it was a cathedral, and tonight the hymn was the steady rasp of her breath inside a reconditioned pilot suit as she slid between the ribbed armor plates of a decommissioned Titan mech, the T-901 Asterion. Asterion had once anchored the Western Alliance's shield wall during the fall of Earth. After the surrender, the crystalline monarch's viceroys melted its command core, pinned a treaty plaque to its chin, and left it to rot. They never bothered to drain the auxiliary reactors. The monarchy believed symbolism was stronger than circuitry. Mara and her Cell-23 renegades, unofficially branded Iron Resonance, planned to turn that arrogance into a wound wide enough for sunlight. "Kai, I'm inside the Cortex scaffold," she whispered, clicking on a tooth-embedded comm bead. The external air was acrid, but inside, the mech smelled of hydraulic nectar and old ozone, like a storm bottled at birth. Kai Zendru, their systems oracle, replied from a blind spot beside a bulldozed ankle joint. "Neural lattice is there, just scrubbed. I'm uploading a ghost core. When you see the blue aurora in your visor, you've got manual authority." "Understood." Mara kneaded her gloved fingers. She wondered if the mech remembered how many cities had once chanted its name when it strode out of sunrise. 23 stories tall. She hoped it did. The blue aurora flooded her visor. Primary reactors coughed, then howled. In the distance, scrap towers tumbled as sonic shock rippled through the yard. Searchlights from Royal Sky Mantis stabbed down, pupils of the ever-watchful throne. Mara grinned. "Asterion, on your knees!" The Titan obeyed, metal groaning like tectonic plates. On the ground, Iron Resonance sprinted for grappling elevators, each pilot heading toward their chosen mech. There were 4 functional Titans in total, each a chimeric beast of mismatched hull panels and patched reactor conduits. Asterion, Bellona Rex, Kepri Ascendant, and the ancient lunar veteran Idiot Hoggrey. Individually, they were relics. Together, they would be an apocalypse wearing hand-me-down armor. High above, drifting in umbral orbit, was Station Caliburn, a forgotten Alliance railgun array that Marisol had hacked months earlier. Its cannons floated in permanent freefall, magnetically bracing gargantuan tungsten lances along a track the length of Manitou Bay. Caliburn's targeting AI was now leashed to the same ghost core Kai uploaded to the Titans. Every broadsword swing down here would be mirrored by a calibrated orbital strike from up there, a planetary percussion score set to the tempo of war. Dive lights zigzagged across the scrapyard as crystal enforcers descended in wasp-shaped landers, their hulls refracting moonlight into lethal prisms. Automaton infantry disembarked, faceted militia with porcelain limbs, powered by heartstones that pulsed lavender. Instead of rifles, they bore refractive staffs, capable of splitting laser fire into blooming novas. Mara rotated Asterion's shoulders. Armor plates clapped shut like portcullises. "On resonance," she broadcast across the squad net. "Initiate sacred theft, and remember why the monarchy scrapped these Titans. Because they were terrified of what free humans might do with them." Bellona Rex pilot, Chief Warrant Lesa Delphus, chuckled. "If the crown's afraid, let's crown them with dread." 4 Titans rose beneath a paling dawn, kicking up vortices that painted the sky burnt umber. Below ankle level, the crystalline automata looked like candle flames in a gale. They opened emerald fusillades, yet beams bent sideways when they struck the Titan's ablative fields. Mara drew Asterion's carbonium greatsword, Hilago-Yego, from a magnetic scabbard along the spine. The mech's arm actuators whined. In orbit, Caliburn pre-charged Rail Cannon 1. "First step," Mara muttered, channeling an old Alliance kata. Asterion lunged. She slashed downward. Caliburn fired. To ground witnesses, it seemed the sword itself split the sky. A streak of condensed atmosphere screamed from the stars and hammered the automata ranks. Shards of crystal and liquefied asphalt erupted in a geyser hundreds of meters high. The monarchy's landing craft, caught mid-takeoff, folded like candle tin. "Synchrony perfect," Kai whooped in her ear. "Your heartbeat's the new metronome, Captain." But Garuda was only the overture. Their true objective lay a continent east, the radiant citadel of Lysatria, grown from a seed of starlit quartz, and now the beating heart of monarchy occupation on Earth. Its diamond buttresses housed the crown loom, a wormhole spindle that could summon legionaries from the crystal nebula faster than any human fleet could intercept. If iron resonance could sever the loom mid-weave, they'd halt reinforcements and hand Planetary Free Command its first strategic opening in decades. They marched at dawnfall, each stride covering kilometers, broken highways turning to braided pebbles beneath footpaths. Rural populations emerged from makeshift barracks to gape. Some threw up fists. Others wept, for they had grown accustomed to kneeling beneath glassy overseers. Now titanic silhouettes moved eastward with the steady pulse of drum beats they could feel in their ribcages. Hope, Mara realized, was tactile. By night, too, they reached the outskirts of Lysatria, a city whose towers refracted city-sized auroras, prisming moonlight into 1,000 wandering rainbows. Its outer defense ring floated on graviton anchors, crystalline bastions, patrolled by the monolith guard, automaton giants nearly half a titan's size, though cast from pure starlace. They carried obelisks of compressed gamma glass that could punch a molten hole through skyscrapers. Bellona Rex took point. Liza revved the Dreadshore reactors and surged ahead, twin cleaver axes blur-strobing. She beheaded the first monolith guard in a hurricane of sparks. Caliburn's rail cannon, too, answered, ramming a tungsten spike through the torso of a second guardian before its weapon fully charged. The bastion ring staggered. But the crystalline monarch had expected some manner of terrestrial rebellion. Her legions were programmed for exponential escalation. Tower turrets along Lysatria's crown prism rotated outward, opening like crystal flowers, each petal a particle accelerator. They spat baryonic lances. Kepri Ascendant's left arm detonated in a fractal boom, spraying molten pharaoh jaw fragments across 4 burrows. Pilot Angel Torque swore but rerouted controls. Kepri unfolded backup manipulators on surgical, now weaponized claws. "Niaitha gra, redeploy," Mara ordered. The lunar veteran's pilot, Olumided Farrier, spoke seldom, but the draconic titan surged forward, shoulder fins flaring. Its mouth parting, it exhaled a coilgun sneeze of ferrous flechettes that stripped armor off the nearest bastion like an apple peel. Ground level was a chaos of glinting shards and avalanches of neon dust. Civilian districts trembled, terrified but understanding in some marrow-deep place that freedom's birth rarely comes without tectonics. Electricity died block by block beneath the electromagnetic tantrums of 4 resurrected gods. Mara stabbed Heliogouge into the bedrock. Caliburn sensed the impact vector, firing rail cannon 3 at the identical angle 400 kilometers overhead. Mara's stabbed Heliogouge into the identical angle 400 kilometers overhead. A tungsten rod slit a bastion wall. The shockwave blew Lysatria's skybridge apart, raining diamond shards like malevolent confetti. Inside her cockpit, the temperature spiked. Sweat streaked Mara's brow. Asterion's limb articulation alerts flickered angry ochre, 70% servo life remaining, 65. They were spinning the Titans faster than planned, but to hesitate now would be to commit to an endless crawl of attrition. In the throne chamber near Lysatria's zenith, the crystalline monarch Queen Ashalaura, dawn star of the 20 facets, watched by a polychrome hollow orb. Her face was an immaculate mirror, her eyes fractal pupils shifting like turning galaxies. Ashalaura rarely deigned to speak aloud, for her court conversed by harmonic resonance. But tonight her crystalline vocal cords shimmered. "Foolish mammals," she intoned, voice ringing like struck glass. "Emulate our titanomachy without understanding resonance. Very well. Deploy the seraphine girders." Below, gravitic harp racks unfolded, extruding 99 seraphim aerial warforms carved from radioprism and sung into life by the monarchy's choir engines. They resembled winged hourglasses, bodies wreathed in sonic halos. Each bore a prismatic spear that refracted probability itself, allowing them to flicker between possible positions faster than optical sensors could resolve. Kai's scream ripped through comms. "We've got fractal flyers inbound, speed vectors off the charts." The seraphims swooped. Bellona Rex lost an eye sensor. Capri's chest crumpled. Nithhugger toppled, pinned by 6 spears that carved localized null-gravity spheres, yanking the Titan downward. Asterion staggered near the crown loom's spire. Mara tasted iron in her mouth. She whispered, "Caliburn, override. Full sympathetic burst station." Caliburn's 3 remaining rail cannons rotated and locked to universal free fire. Slaved no longer to sword syllables, but to the heartbeat graph of Mara herself. Each pulse gave birth to an orbital lance. The sky became a metronome of descending stars. Seraphim ripped apart midair like sugar sculptures under a kettle hammer. Yet for every 2 felled, another surged, warping probability to sidestep tungsten. Mara realized the monarchy's warforms were not singular units but quantum ensembles. Kill one, and its alternate possibility might survive 2 meters left of the impact. She needed superposition to be a cage, not an escape hatch. "Kai," she called, "time for the Rosetta cycle." Iron resonance had stolen more than Titans. They'd also stolen the equation for Petrikesh triangulation, a temporal cymatics pattern that forced quantum states into harmonic lockstep. It required 3 broadband emitters planted at equidistant city points, devices the renegades had smuggled weeks earlier disguised as orphanage generators. With a single command, Kai activated them. A tremor passed through the air, inaudible yet gut-felt, like an invisible organ playing sub-C notes. Superposition collapsed. Surviving seraphim froze mid-light, probability cocooned. They could occupy only one reality now, making them deliciously mortal. Bellona Rex and Capri ascended in tandem, axes and claws finding crystal hearts. And Hogner rose, shedding null gravity shards, and decapitated 3 immobilized seraphim with a tail whip that carved crescents of mourning. Still, the Titans bled. Servos shrieked, coolant veinlets leaked, radon steam. Caliburn's power cells dipped into otter line. Ashel Aurora stepped onto her throne balcony, summoning the prism crown. It hovered like an 11-point corona above her head. She raised a single glassy hand. From Lysatia's foundation rose the Archon pattern, a monolithic automaton, 200 meters tall, dwarfing even Asterion. Its body was half cathedral, half wasp, festooned with stained glass wings and spires that hummed with cosmic microwave background radiation. The Archon carried no weapon. It was the weapon. "Target the loom first," Lysa urged. "We can't stalemate a god." Mara agreed. The crown loom looked fragile now, an hourglass tower anxious to be shattered. But the Archon pattern parked itself between the Titans and the spire, wings refracting city light into burning halos. It extended clawed limbs, each tip glowing with vacuum-frozen starlight. Asterion swung Heliogouge in a diagonal fury. Caliburn matched, but the tungsten lance shattered harmlessly against the Archon's wings. Energy warped into a kaleidoscope that painted the clouds, but did not wound. The Archon's counterstrike was a gesture of dismissal, a gravity inversion bubble that hurled us skyscrapers like dominoes. Mara's harness caught, though her spine almost didn't. Nith Agra leapt, digging obsidian fangs into the Archon's shoulder. For a heartbeat, it seemed to hold, but a coruscating pulse traveled through the Archon's structure, glass spires churning into impossible geometry. Nith Agra cracked, its torso folding outward like origami. Olamide ejected in a sky-scowled capsule, his scream trailing behind. One Titan down, 3 wounded. The crown loom's warp gate began to thrum, petals unfolding to pool starlight for reinforcements. Defeat scented the air cold, metallic, reminiscent of embalmed dreams. Mara exhaled. Above her the night sky spilled dawn. She thought of stories her grandmother told of the first city, of Babel engineers who believed cooperation could ascend gravity. What was a myth but engineering waiting for a proper blueprint? Hey, is Asterian's reactor still quantum linked to Caliburn's field coil? Yes, but if you funnel that much energy, you'll blow both cores past nonlinear. Synchronize them. Prepare the Pendragon overcord. That name silenced the comms. Pendragon was a last-ditch tactic, a feedback loop turning a titan into an antenna that called down every tungsten lance simultaneously, sacrificing mech and pilot to birth a localized stellar spear. No one had ever executed it outside simulation. Captain, Lysa began, voice cracking like she'd swallowed nails. Belay, Mara said gently. When the Archon crumbles, finish the loom. Earth chooses her legends. Sometimes she asks us to volunteer. She felt the team's heart song through the link. Mourning and pride, braided. Then Kai's quiet reply, overcord sequence primed. Asterion forced itself upright. Power promise. Servo warnings deafened Mara's HUD. She disengaged safety interlocks, allowing the reactor to climb toward geometric overheat. Internal fans screamed. The cockpit's oxygen crisped. The Archon turned, cocking its cathedral head as if puzzled by the stubborn insect. Mara lifted Healy-Guji into high guard. Asterion's arms trembled under a sun's worth of synthetic muscle fiber. She initiated the Alliance Salute 1, perfect vertical cut. The blade descended. Caliburn's entire spinal rail network exploded in blue corona, launching all remaining tungsten rods as a single contiguous lance. Some rods fused in transit. Others remained discrete, yet braided by electromagnetic eddies. To onlookers it was a celestial javelin, infinity inches long, thrown by the ghost of humanity's collective fury. The spear stabbed through Asterion's upraised sword, through the Archon pattern, through 5 subterranean strata, finally kissing the planet's mantle. There was no sound at first. The atmosphere simply evacuated, chased aside by incandescent shock. Then the world inhaled and screamed. A corona of molten glass blossomed beneath Lysatria, turning boulevards to lakes of emerald fire. Archon patterns split down the median, each half curling inward like petals, returning to seed. The prism crown above Eshel Zular's head fissured, light leaking as white dwarfs leak memory. She fell backward into her throne chamber, shards of her own face scattering like hail. Asterion was gone. Vapor trailed where it had stood, leaving only a crater that glowed sunrise. Silence clung to the comms for several forever-long seconds. Then Lysa's voice returned, raw. Captain, report. Static. Kai whispered, Mara? But static does not weep. It only crackles. Duty, however, persists. Bologna Rex advanced, armor scabbed but alive. So did Kepri Ascendant, semi-compromised yet raging. The Titans hammered past the Archon's remains. Within the crown loom, warp petals fluttered erratically, quantum couplings unspooling. One final synchronized blow-axe and claw, and the loom collapsed in on itself with the sigh of a dying horizon. Its implosion sucked stray crystal shards into a private singularity, then winked out, leaving only dust that glittered like improbable snow. Above the smoldering city, seraphim fragments twinkled in suborbital fall, meteor showers of dead probability. The monarchy's long-range beacons fell quiet. Across Earth, enslaved provinces stared at the sudden hush in the skies. where patrol constellations had once shone. In the weeks that followed, Free Command would broadcast news of Lysitria's fall, of the crystalline monarch's retreat to lunar refuge, of humans flooding wrecked streets to plant seeds in glass-sanded soil. They would speak of iron resonance, of the legendary 4, though only 3 survived, and above all, of Captain Mara Sol, who turned her heartbeat into an orbital firing solution. Yet, legends are not kept alive by names. They live in the empty space someone once chose to occupy. In Garuda Basin, scavengers occasionally swear they hear a metallic heartbeat under the sands, slow and patient, as though an old mech is dreaming of the sky it kissed goodbye. When the wind is right, they say you can see faint blue aurora flickering where no power cables run. Perhaps the world itself keeps memory bargains. Perhaps, somewhere, encoded in quantum afterglow, Mara and Asterion dance, still, each sword swing echoed by the hush of orbit, each step carving a freer path for whatever species decides next that fear is insufficient reason to stop moving.